What is happening with Ohio State and Michigan? Is a disaster brewing? We're going to talk about that. Guys, how you doing?
Good. Merry Christmas, Nate.
Thanks.
I
Appreciate
know
Happy
you
it.
celebrate
Festivus.
Festivus, but I would as soon as be the first to say Merry Christmas.
That's
Hey,
awesome.
Nate.
That's awesome.
I heard somebody got upset at some political statement I made last time I was on the show. Is that true?
I don't think it was a political statement. I think it was a statement that maybe you could have been brought up on charges for that we had to edit off. But
No,
we'll
I don't
just
think
keep that
we're not
off.
referring to that. I'm not referring to that one.
Oh, is there another separate statement
Multiple.
you made that was
Multiple.
it was terrible?
Of course, there was something.
I heard a snowflake didn't like me mentioning a certain
Oh, for
politician's
God's
name.
sake. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm
But
doing
he's
great.
not listening. I heard he's also not listening anyway, so he won't even hear about this because
Nate, can't you mute
clearly
people
said-
being
he
the like
clearly
the
said he's done with the show.
the owner of
so-
this?
You can put people in timeout.
Yeah.
But anyway,
put
we're going to
It's-
talk
it's-
about
Hey,
the
Nate, hold on,
disaster
let me
that could
finish.
ensue
Finish.
if
Can I finish?
Devin Brown stinks and JJ McCarthy goes pro. That's what we're going to talk about today, because this could actually be a pretty big disaster if the cards fall right. I mean, I'm going to start with you, Matt, real quick. What happens if Devin Brown doesn't work out? Because it sounds like Ohio State's putting all their eggs in the basket of him and Lincoln Keenholz, which I don't think they're putting any eggs in his basket. I think people just like to say his name, but I think that.
Well, I like to say his name, West Dakota Heisman.
Yeah.
You know, if you had Kyle Honda McCord, you have Lincoln Continental? Lincoln Town Car?
Yeah, you might
I
be a
like
78
Maserati.
Lincoln Continental. That might be the problem. But Matt, I mean, question to you. So Ohio State doesn't look like they're going after a quarterback in the portal. It's just looking that way. They're going to ride Devin Brown is what we're seeing. What does that give you pause at all? Does that make you feel a little bit uneasy about maybe them not getting maybe the best quarterback that they could?
I'm not worried at all. I think what we did last year was we waited until after the bowl game before we got any of our portal people, and we were able to get 2 offensive linemen, a good corner, and I think we could have maybe done a little bit better. We missed out on some people that we wanted. We didn't do as well in the portal as teams like Michigan did, but we did pick up some crucial pieces, especially on the offensive line. I can't even imagine how bad the line would have been this year without Simmons and Fryer. I mean, that would have been just not that they're the best, but I mean, Simmons didn't give up any sacks, and Fryer was at least okay. Without them, we just lost so much on the offensive line last year. So I think it'll be fine. I think we're going to do is the spring or the reports for the practices right now for the bowl game. Everyone says that Devin Brown is balling out. Lincoln Keenholz is playing average, unfortunately, my boy. I was hoping he would, catch up quicker here, but it looks like we'll have to wait till next year for him, maybe in the offseason. But Devin Brown's probably going to be lighting it up. And I'm also hearing that, there's a report I just read 5 minutes ago that said that Maserati Marv is potentially getting a $20 million NIL deal to come back for another year.
No way.
And
you don't believe that.
I do.
No way.
I believe it
No.
all. And he's going to, and not just to come back, but to play in the bowl game too. So we would have everybody potentially coming back for this game. The only people we're not even sure about yet are JTT and Marv. And then a lot of people think Henderson's going to come back. So hopefully he'll be there too. If we don't have him, I
You
think we'll be
believe in Bucknuts fairy tales. Come on.
Yes, I do. But anyway, I think he's going to come back. But if Devin Brown does play and doesn't do well, then they would definitely 100% go after a portal guy. But there's, keep in mind, there's 2 portal periods. There's the portal period happening now, and then there's also going to be 15 days after the end of the playoffs for the rest of the people that are playing in the playoffs. So there's going to be a lot of people leaving. Everyone thinks that, oh, well, Michigan's fine. They're not losing anybody because only one person is left so far. And same with Alabama. They're going to lose, like last year, Michigan lost like 20 people in the portal after their bowl game. And that was after a great season. So, between Alabama and Michigan, I mean, even if they're players that are getting playing time, they still might just go in the portal just to get a paycheck, even if it's from Michigan. Like you look at some of the people, I know A&M has lost a lot of people in the portal and they've lost most of their players, but some of them came back and they just got paid. Some people are just like, I feel like I want to play for my team, but I want to make sure I get enough money. So they threaten to leave, and then they take their name out of the portal and they get their money. So it'll be interesting to see if we can poach some people from, Michigan, Alabama, or whoever, whoever is, willing to potentially go in the portal after those playoff games.
Matt, do you think if Devin Brown stinks it up, there's a lot of these players are going to see they have a great chance to go right to Ohio State and start right away, and that'll help them recruit out of the portal?
Yeah, as long as there's some people left. I know a lot of the top ones have already been picked up. So, there's not a whole lot of people, I guess, that would be like safer picks. Like there's a difference. There's two types of portal quarterbacks. So you have like a guy like Dante Moore, who Oregon just took, who is sort of like the young guy who played like half of this year. And then he's a 5-star, but he's not going to be starting next year. And then they also, with the Nike money, got Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma. So he's like just superstar, and he's going to be starting. So they got two $2 million quarterbacks. And so they got like the one guy is going to be, he's seasoned, he's played 50 games for 2 schools, and he's going to be ready to go. And then you have the other guy who can learn underneath him. And they lost one of their 5-star quarterbacks because they brought in 2. And Ohio State, meanwhile, isn't bringing in anyone because they're afraid probably that they would lose Devin Brown and Lincoln Keenholz if they brought someone in. They might, but
sounds like you're saying licking keyholes.
Yeah, I think they're going to wait and see how he does in the bowl game, and if it all turns out well, like I don't know who's going to be left at that point though. I don't know if it's going to. I'm not really sure. The guy from Duke went to Notre Dame already, so I'm not sure how many good quarterbacks are going to be left to get at that point.
So Jason, we're probably going to know December 29th if Devin Brown is going to be the guy. You as the Buckeye who has to be a Buckeye because he's
financially obligated is all
financially obligated. Yeah. We're going to find out really quick, right?
We're going to find out really quick, and I'm actually hoping that Devin Brown plays well enough to give him some confidence going into the season next year, and they don't have to mess around with the portal money. So it'll be a good chance for him knowing he's got a full game to play under his belt to see what he can do. Yeah,
true. And Missouri is still favored, I think, right?
2.5 points. So
how is Missouri good again? Like Missouri hasn't been good forever.
They've been recruiting. Yeah, they've been recruiting well, and they've actually have been getting good people in the portal.
They've been giving people those Ozarks money, money laundering money from the Ozarks.
Yeah. Well, you know who's doing the best in the portal right now is
Michigan State.
Ole Miss and Oregon have been.
Now, what about
everybody.
Michigan State? Michigan State got arguably the second best quarterback, Aiden Childs.
That doesn't make any sense.
Who would go to Michigan State right now? That program.
Those rankings are crazy. So you have Oregon State had 2 quarterbacks last year. One was a superstar, DJ Uyunglele. No, I know. He was the starter.
Childs is better. Aiden Childs is actually going to be
He's ranked higher, and he didn't start. That's why those rankings are crazy.
No. Everyone knows he was a star in waiting, and fucking Michigan State would rather have him over DJ. That's why that coach, when he left, he probably had the choice of either one.
I don't know why anybody would go to Michigan State right now, no matter how much money.
DJ has his issues. His completion percentage is kind of low, like 57%. This kid is going to be a superstar. He can run, he can pass. I'm telling you, he's a huge star.
Nobody's here to listen.
He was ranked really high.
Or Maryland.
Well, I just want to piss off Nate. I just want to piss off Nate by letting him know that Michigan State's got a stud QB coming in.
Yeah. How about the Maryland quarterback who left?
What do you mean he didn't leave? He's not in the transfer portal.
I mean,
he's going to the pros.
He's going to the pros. He's not playing in the bowl game.
I know. I mean, it's all good. Ryan, I would crack a joke, but I won't. Oh, come on, Ryan.
You'd be better at cracking a joke than Diego ever could.
Well, Nate cut me off. I had another line coming. He wouldn't let me.
Nate's doing a good job producing the show.
You know what? It's my
struggle. We talked a lot about Ohio State already. Nate, you put a part of the subject is with JJ McCarthy. Like, what happens if he goes pro?
Yeah, definitely.
Nate gets too happy
half
talking about Ohio State, bad things happening to Ohio State. He just forgets the Michigan stuff.
This is supposed to be a quick hitter, so we got to get the Michigan stuff. What's going on?
I do want to stick to. Yeah, I do want to always focus on some bad things happening to Ohio State. But you're right. It would be terrible right now for Michigan if JJ McCarthy goes pro, because they don't really have anyone else. I don't think they would go to the portal. It doesn't look like they're going to. I mean, anything could happen, I guess. But they're in the same boat as Ohio State.
They don't have
they're
any
going to wait until after the bowl game to start looking for a quarterback in the portal. They don't have a bench guy,
Nate, that's been recruited. That's any good?
Not really.
They have a Wildcat quarterback that he had that 20-yard run against Ohio State.
Hire Rich Rodriguez to come run the offense, and there you go.
Yeah, just to run the offense. Please no. But, yeah, I mean, then Michigan would have Jaden Davis, who's a true freshman, assuming he signs. I think he's going to. But then Ohio State would have a true freshman too. I mean, if disaster happened to both teams, I wonder what would be the chances of Michigan and Ohio State actually both starting a true freshman at some point in the 2024 season.
That would be amazing. Think about it, 4 years of these quarterbacks going after each other.
Yeah, it would be awesome. But it seems really irresponsible for both teams right now, especially for Ohio State, because they're not even playing in the playoffs. Like, Michigan is in a different boat. I mean, you'll have to figure out and find out if Michigan, if JJ is going to go pro. We got to wait for a while before we are even going to know that. So yeah.
He's going to be a top 10 pick. I don't see him coming back.
Wait, who's going to be a top 10 pick?
JJ's. I'm seeing a lot of smoke about him being top 10.
Yeah, what about Maserati Marv?
Top 3 pick if he goes.
Yeah. If he goes, you seem to still hold out hope. There's no chance he doesn't come out.
What does JJ bring to a pro team, Nate?
Well, it depends on how he plays against Alabama, and if he beats Alabama and plays or just plays really well, then yeah. But his last 5 games have been pretty pedestrian.
Yeah.
When beating Ohio State and Penn State, not pedestrian, good wins, but he hasn't looked great doing it.
But what's his best skill, Nate? What's like his strong point?
He's super accurate quarterback. Super accurate. He's got an NFL arm, makes it.
And he's got great mobility. He's very fast. Has great mobility. Yeah, Ryan, he has all the tools. He has all the NFL tools.
Ryan, I don't think Orgy is next in line. They've only brought him in to run, situationally. I think that if we get into next year, I think it's probably going to be Jaden Davis, and they may want to maybe start the year, off with maybe a veteran, but they really can't. Michigan's got a terrible schedule next year, and we'll probably go over that.
Awful.
Yeah, we start out with Fresno State, which is, that's the easiest game, and they're not even that easy. Then we play Texas. I think we play 3 out of the 4 Pac-12 teams coming over. We play at Ohio State. We play at Wisconsin, if I'm not mistaken.
Don't worry about the Ohio State game as long as Ryan Day's still coaching.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So it's just really, I don't know. Matt, what do you think about all this? I'm a little worried.
I see. The reason why I'm not as worried is because I'm fairly confident in Devin and Brown. I also know that we have Lincoln Keenholz in there. So Devin Brown's a 5-star quarterback. He's elite. I think Lincoln Keenholz is an unbelievable athlete. He just happened to play it in a state with bad competition. But he was like a 3-sport star, like everything. Like, the guy is just unbelievable. He can do windmill dunks as a white guy. That's pretty impressive. He's very athletic. And then you have, Aaron Nolan coming in, another 5-star. So, one of those 3 guys will be fine. Obviously, you're not going to want to use a freshman if you don't have to. But, if one of those guys doesn't do well at the beginning of the season, after a couple of games, you can always throw them in there. And as long as they get up to speed by week 5 when we go to Oregon against Dylan Gabriel, that's going to be just a brutal matchup. So that's, probably the hardest game on our schedule next year is at Oregon week 5. Because even if Michigan's the better team next year, depending on who comes back, and if Harbaugh's at the Chargers, and so many question marks, whether or not they're vacating wins and losing scholarships, and everyone just leaves their team, like who knows? Like Michigan is the biggest question mark next year. We just have no idea. Are they going to be building a dynasty? Is this like a nothing burger, or is this just like the downfall of their program?
Well, so going back to Devin Brown a little bit, I believe that he's probably pretty good, but I wonder if maybe he didn't beat out Kyle McCord, right? And
well, so what happened was
he
was beating him out for the majority of the practices, and I guess at the end, like the very last week, he had a few bad plays or whatever, and wasn't as consistent like the last week of practice before the start of the season, and then he wasn't really given a fair shake. I think Ryan Day let Kyle McCord's father sort of dictate that, look, if he's not the starter, we're gonna leave, and he knew, I think, that if he did that with Devin Brown being the backup, he at least would keep both quarterbacks, and if Kyle McCord didn't work out, he could just bring in Devin Brown, but not vice versa. It wouldn't have worked. Like Kyle would have just left. But that was obviously potentially the wrong decision anyway, because Kyle's leaving anyway. So all that investment that you put into a guy ended up being for naught because he left.
More crappy Ryan Day coaching.
You can't let the inmates run the asylum.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I don't know if that's for sure that's what happened. That's just what people think.
Then I'm with Jason that's bad coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that's what happened, then that's but it could have just been that like the reporting also said that the last week McCord was more accurate, and Devin Brown makes more big plays, but he wasn't as consistent, and they were just worried about that.
Yeah. Matt, do you think Marv Jr. also helped weigh in on that because he played with McCord in high school?
Oh yeah, that could be.
I don't think so. I think he's obviously he's friends with him, and he's sad that he left, but as far as who's going to be, he just wants whoever's going to be, the fact that it was even that close when the guy had that much, experience, but I'm sure that he just wanted him, whoever the best guy was, I'm assuming. I mean, I don't know how, I know they were relatively close, but.
What if the beauty is in the eye of the beholder and it's his friend? It's so close.
I mean, it's still tough. Yeah.
Well, and Ryan makes a good point. Like you were saying, Devin getting hurt earlier in the year is what sort of probably it messed up his chance to play. But let's talk about the decision was made before
the decision was made before he got hurt,
though. Let's talk about when Devin was in the game this year. I went back and just watched his all of Devin.
Did he get
Devin
some snaps
Brown
against
plays.
Andiana? Anybody else?
He had like 15 snaps or something like that.
Not a lot.
Not a lot. So, I mean, not enough
and
that
Western
you would want to judge him
also
completely on that. But he did have some. He looked a little sketchy, which that's okay. He did make a few plays, like rolling out to the right, found a guy, threw back across his body, which generally you don't advise.
Right.
But he made the play. So, I mean, that says something.
And a nice 60-yard bomb against Western Kentucky to a freshman.
Western Kentucky.
True freshman receiver.
Threw a real nice pass there. And then he kind of fizzled out a few times. It's like he kind of just like blanked out or something. And it ended drives that maybe
he had so few pass attempts on a lot of those games where he was put in there. Like so many times it would just be like, he wouldn't even get a pass. It would just be like two 1-yard runs and then a pass or something.
He's going to get it against Missouri. You're going to see what he's made of.
Yeah. And
I mean, Nate, don't you think if Ryan Day was concerned about his quarterback room, he would say, listen, like we need NIL to get us a quarterback now, or we're in complete, like it would be a complete disaster if he thought that the room was that bad and they weren't going to go get a quarterback now. Like if they know, he has to know before the game even starts, like if this guy has it or not. Like it's one thing to say, McCord was a mistake because he didn't play great this year. I mean, he wasn't terrible. I mean, he was one drive away from beating the number one team in the country on the road. He screwed up.
He's not spectacular.
He's not spectacular. He was okay. He was above average, whatever. He was a Honda, not what we needed to win, ultimately. But, a lot of that can be blamed on the defense and can be blamed on the offensive line.
He's better than a Honda, dude. Come on. I know
I agree with Ryan. I agree with what Ryan's saying there in his comment.
It's just compared to like the last three quarterbacks we had that were all like Heisman candidates.
I know, but he's more like an Acura. Let's be fair. Come on.
Okay.
He was the third best quarterback in the big.
They're made the same.
So if he was as good as you claim, don't you think he'd be able to get a transfer somewhere better than Syracuse?
He almost got Nebraska.
That's what I would say is like Syracuse. That is like football Siberia.
Come on, yeah.
Yeah.
Like if he was above a Honda, he would be going somewhere else.
Yeah, all the coaches have the film on him, and that's where he ended up.
You could say that about Talia. He went to Maryland, very comparable, and we
say that about him.
And didn't schools offer him a lot of money to leave Maryland last year?
No, they offered him a lot of money last year, but not the first year he transferred.
Last year.
Well, not the first year he transferred. This is the first year that McCord is transferring to Syracuse. Maybe if he has a good year at Syracuse, they will.
Maybe
last year.
McCord is his final year. That's why McCord has been doing that. He's been real picky about where he's going.
What I'm saying is it's not the same comparison. You can't compare. All I'm saying is there's plenty of good quarterbacks that end up at middling programs. Dare I say it? And it's just it's relationships, it's fit with the system. There's a million reasons why a guy like McCord would end up at Syracuse. Even if you think he's above,
they could have just given him a lot of money too. I mean, we have no idea.
Less pressure. I don't think he's a guy who likes the pressure.
There's a million reasons, dude.
Yeah.
And if you show out on Syracuse and you have a great season record wise, dude, it could really improve your chances.
Well, the crazy thing is their schedule is complete trash. They don't play anybody. So
there you go.
He has a pretty good chance of going almost undefeated until the ACC championship game.
Are you trying to help me with
no one?
Are you trying to help me with my arguments? Is that what you're trying to do?
I'm just saying. I looked at the schedule and it was really bad. It was like if you know how people made fun of Michigan's schedule this year, it was that times 10. There's no Ohio State.
Should be playing garbage.
I saw it.
There's no Clemson or Florida State.
What's up,
North Carolina? The top 3 teams on the ACC they don't even play Syracuse, so they literally play no one until
M&M.
Yeah, if Syracuse can win the ACC title game, which they should be undefeated going into that, they'll have a chance to get in the playoffs.
Yeah, Antoine makes a good point here on Michigan. Yeah, Michigan has had JJ hasn't been bad, but he's been, even in the games where he hasn't showed out, like he's still played well and he's led them to the wins. So that's very true. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he still played well. His completion percentage. He gets a lot of crap because he hasn't thrown hardly any touchdowns, but that's because his running back is a touchdown vulture, and it steals all the short. Anytime you get inside the 10-yard line, their running back steals all the touchdowns.
Yeah.
By the way,
it's harder to throw touchdowns back then.
Am I the only one drinking tonight? I don't want that guy saying I'm the only alcoholic.
We're not functional alcoholics, Diego. You're the only one who's doing that.
I need at least one more alcoholic on the show. Come on.
Yeah.
Matt,
hey, it's Tuesday.
Some of us are responsible.
Maybe on a Thursday. Maybe Thirsty Thursday.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so let's talk about Kyle a little bit. He was probably going to Nebraska, right? Before Raiola came in. So he's obviously not wanting to compete with anybody.
See, now I would have said Nebraska would have been a good fit for him because that's like, it's a big name school, even though they haven't been relevant in a long time.
Is it really a big name school?
Yeah. They have a passionate fan base. They have a lot of support.
Because they're in Nebraska and there's nothing else in Nebraska.
I'm saying not just in Nebraska. I'm saying they have a lot of alumni. They're a very popular school. They have great fan base, but they also
I'd rather go to
Syracuse. Bad school.
Hold on, did you guys see Antoine's comment?
No.
See Antoine's comment? He goes,
making you feel better. Making you feel better, Diego.
Thank you, Antoine. I feel much better about myself.
Antoine just plays an alcoholic on TV.
But you know what? It's McCord obviously didn't want any competition. He didn't he figured for sure, fans were going to be calling for Raiola all season long, and like they were going to want him to play, and he might even get beat out. You never know, just because he's.
I doubt a true freshman was going to beat him
number
out.
One guy.
But
they might have also not had the NIL money to pay for both of them. I mean, he was making still $500,000 or so at OSU, at least.
But the evidence points to not winning competition, him not winning any competition for the starting job.
But I don't think most true freshmen aren't going to come in and play unless there's literally no one else on the roster. So Raiola will start now because they don't have anyone. But if McCord was there, I would say there's a pretty damn good chance that McCord would be starting.
I think so. You're
So
right.
I just think that I think Nebraska cut it off. I think that he wanted to go there. I think Nebraska's like, wait a second, we could just put all of our money, NIL money, into him. I haven't seen Nebraska picking up anyone else. They spent their money, they spent their wad on the quarterback, and they have him.
Yeah, I don't know who they have now at Nebraska.
You want to know the one thing
they're probably going to be okay with starting him.
The one thing I don't like about NIL is, unlike in the NFL, we don't know the numbers really. I mean, you can find out, sometimes, but
everyone lies about it. You have no idea.
Right. So you don't really know what's happening. Like in the NFL, obviously what teams are spending their money on. They should have to disclose it. That should be the next rule.
I think that would be fair.
Yeah, and not to mention,
that would be great.
It's an easy rule to implement because it's not something that schools can be sneaky about. They have to disclose it. They literally have to disclose it. And yeah, I guess they could lie, but if there's a certain amount of money they're spending and it looks weird that they're not, that they're saying like their QB only costs $200,000. First of all, what's the incentive to lie? And secondly, people would figure it out if they were lying.
I just want to stop everybody right now and take a moment.
Yeah.
To recognize Diego just actually made a decent point on something. We should sit here and take this in and recognize.
Are you sure you're not drinking too, JJ? Before you came on?
I've got water in my my mug, unfortunately.
Maybe JJ is the secret drinker.
Yeah, maybe.
Democracy dies in darkness. I was going to say that earlier. Anyway, no, honestly, they should be transparent. I really think that's a rule they should implement, and hopefully they do it soon. But yeah,
Diego, we discussed the new rule change that the NCAA commissioner proposed, where they're going to have schools opting into a new sort of like, I guess, I don't know what they're calling it. It's like you're not changing leagues, but it's just going to be a different division, I guess, where people that want to donate to the NIL collective for their school, but everyone who's going to do it has to donate a minimum of $30,000 to every player in every sport. So it's 50. So for Ohio State, where all of our sports, it would be $15 million a year, and that's a minimum baseline if you only want to do 30,000.
One person,
30,000 per person per sport, men and women. So Ohio State would be paying $15 million a year.
Huh?
They can afford it.
And that's the baseline. So the bigger schools to have more money are going to be spending more than $30,000 on each.
Yeah.
And it's going to be real expensive because the schools that have more sports, they're not going to just be able to give more money to the guys. So the women are going to have to make the same, and that's going to get really pricey.
I like Antoine and 8 Mile are making a connection where they're finding out they probably grew up as neighbors.
Yeah, 313. That's area code.
Garcia, west side of Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you? Are they referring to you?
I'm from Holly, Michigan. It's only
is there a Garcia? Is there? It sounds like they're saying there's a town in Detroit called Garcia. But maybe I'm misinterpreting, or maybe I'm just.
It must also only make one good point a year.
Maybe they didn't name that after you, Diego.
Maybe I'm cool like Detroit. Maybe that's what it is.
Garcia is like the English equivalent of Smith, like the Latino equivalent of Smith.
It is.
So last little segment before we end the show, we'll talk about, because I think we'll do a longer show on this, but the schedule comparison in 2024 between Michigan and Ohio State is hilarious.
Yeah.
So
our schedule's a joke except for Oregon.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys, out of the 4 Pac-12 teams that are coming to the Big Ten, Ohio State plays one, and it's Oregon. And it is at Oregon. So there's that. Otherwise, the first 3 games, you've got Southern Miss, Western Michigan. Then you have your first bye. Then you play Marshall and then Michigan State, and you get into the Big Ten season.
That's so bad.
Michigan at home.
Well,
Michigan, on the other hand, plays Fresno State, then Texas at home. Then they play USC. Then they play Washington. Then they play Oregon. And then at Ohio State.
That's brutal.
Yeah. Well, kudos to Michigan actually having a good schedule.
Well, I know they've just made up for the fact
this year.
They've made up for having terrible schedules.
Yeah,
the last
exactly
2
right.
years.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Although I wouldn't have minded having USC this year or next year because they lost like half their team and they're losing Caleb.
We can't make fun of you for the
bad.
schedule, Nate. At least you got that going for you.
Do schedules even matter anymore? Out of conference schedules with 12 teams in the playoff?
It is when you have Michigan's schedule because they could easily lose three
losses.
Three losses, you're probably out.
It's going to be tough.
So Michigan is dumb, and Ohio State's doing the smart thing.
Well, they're not choosing that. Those are conference games.
That's the Big Ten conference.
The out of conference games.
Well, sure. The Texas thing is about the only thing.
They need to get rid of Texas.
They should have dropped that.
I don't think you throw Fresno State out there as anything much, but the Texas one is tough.
Yeah.
Well, and they play Arkansas State too, but we're not okay. That's not Arkansas.
Don't throw Arkansas State. Good Lord, Nate.
Well, it's funny because Michigan could end up playing Texas in the national championship game, and then have to play again.
Michigan has a hard schedule.
No. Diego grew up in like some posh Maryland neighborhood or something.
Potomac, Maryland, Antoine, for whatever that's worth. Small town.
And Diego and his Ryan
I'm a
Day
small
beard.
town kid. Huh?
You got a Ryan Day beard. That was the best. One of the posters actually said that once, and it was fantastic.
I think I'll put Diego coaching Ohio State against Michigan more than Ryan Day.
First of all, Ryan Day looks old as shit for his age, by the way.
Yeah.
He has terrible bags.
He does. All of our coaches have aged like presidents. So you look at Jim Tressel when he first got here in 2001, and then 5 years later, oh my God. Yeah. I mean, part of it's the graying hair, but
Urban Meyer aged so much.
Urban did too.
Young ladies in the bars to help him get out of a bar stool because he couldn't get out of the
There you go, Jason. Good joke. I like it. Some humor.
Yeah.
By the way,
know what?
Ryan Day needs some eye cream really bad.
He needs to work out. He's puffy and fat.
That too.
You're like an in shape Ryan Day.
Well, thank you, Jason. Thank you. You hear that? You hear that, listener?
Antoine, one more.
An in shape Ryan Day, not just Ryan Day.
One more good point here by Antoine. Yeah, we value experience over your prima donna 5-star wide receivers, and that is true. Like that, Ohio State has got these top draft classes, but like 3 of the 5-star players are usually like wide receivers. You're just like staying really elite in one position.
Well, the weird thing is, like, you guys are you're like, you would think after winning the Big Ten 3 years in a row, you'd be able to get like a recruiting class higher than 16 or 17. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, you'd think. All right, well let's wrap this up, guys. Over 30 minutes. Go for it, Diego.
I'll just say one last thing. Michigan apparently is recruiting pretty well, regardless of the rankings. I mean, the rankings only mean so much. I'm giving you props, Nate. I'm giving you props.
Maybe it's development.
Could be development, or could just be that they're really good when they have all the signs.
Could be they're poaching good Maryland players, motherfuckers.
They must have still had all of Ohio State signs this year too.
Jay Sean Barham,
thanks for the guys for hanging out with us tonight. Antoine, Ryan, 8 Mile. Thanks for guys for hopping on.
Yep. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you next time.
Later.
Take care.
Go Bucks.
Go Blue.
Go Terps. Go Terps.